The bowl that held me together, brown rice and my rock bottom. It was just a regular Tuesday night. No wind, no breaking news, no ominous signs. But for Henry Walker, age 71, that night would change everything. He simply got up to use the bathroom like always. But when he tried to rise from the toilet, his legs didn't listen. There was no pain, no cramp, no slip, just nothing. He pressed his palms against the cold tiled wall, trying to lift himself, but his knees buckled like overcooked noodles. His left leg trembled. His right leg went numb. This was the same man who used to carry a 50-pound sack of rice without breaking a sweat, now stuck on the bathroom floor of his own home, unable to stand. No blood, no screams, just a terrifying silence. And a man realizing his body had stopped responding. "I thought I'd had a stroke," he would later say. But that wasn't it. When his wife Mary found him slumped against the bathroom wall, pale, lips tight, breath shallow, her first instinct was to call 911. But Henry shook his head. "It's not my heart, not my head. I don't know what's wrong, but I just can't get up." At the local hospital, the doctors ran their tests. No signs of nerve damage, no stroke, nothing abnormal on the scans. It could just be fatigue, age-related, one doctor offered. Henry turned away ashamed. Fatigue, he couldn't accept that mere exhaustion could shut down his legs like that. Back home, the question hung in the air like smoke. In the quiet panic, they didn't dare name Henry. Looked at Mary and asked, "I eat clean, no smoking, no drinking, so why are my legs giving out like this?" And then as Mary opened the fridge, Henry's eyes landed on an old bag of brown rice buried in the back. Bought 2 years ago when Mary tried a short-lived detox phase. And just like that, a memory hit him, like light reaching the bottom of a well. The brown rice and lentil porridge his mother used to make whenever he was sick as a chut. How she'd simmer it slowly in a tiny clay pot for 3 whole hours. The scent of fresh ginger red lentils and fermented soy. He didn't know why, but something inside him said it with absolute certainty, "I need that." Not for my stomach, but for the soul in these legs, the first recipe. A bowl that saved him. That night, Mary searched online for a simple macrobiotic recipe. She found one. Basic, gentle healing, brown rice and red lentil porridge. 1/2 cup brown rice soaked for 6 hours. 1/2 cup red lentils. 1 thin slice of fresh ginger. 1/4 teaspoon sea salt. 1 liter of filtered water. Simmer on low for 1.5 to 2 hours. Top with fresh parsley, a dash of black pepper, and a few drops of pure sesame oil. "I don't know how to explain it," Henry said. But that bowl, I could feel blood moving through my legs again, as if every cell in me was whispering, "Thank you for finally feeding us something that isn't frozen or fake." The first lesson. You're not losing strength because you're weak. You're losing strength because you stopped feeding yourself the right way. That night was the beginning of Henry's healing. Not through pills, but through kindness in every bite. He later wrote in his journal, "No one told me I was losing muscle every single day, and no one ever taught me that rebuilding strength doesn't start in the gym. It starts in the kitchen." The memory of mother and the fragrance of unspoken love. No one teaches a child that porridge can heal, but the body remembers. That night when Henry spotted that old half-forgotten bag of brown rice in the fridge, he didn't think of nursing homes. He didn't think of hospitals. He thought of his mother, Clara, a small, quiet woman born into a poor immigrant family in the back country of Kentucky. had learned to care for others before she ever learned to care for herself. Whenever young Henry got sick, even just a mild cold, a cough, a little fever, she never reached for pills. She never went rushing to the drugstore. She would lift the lid of her brown clay pot, rinse a handful of brown rice, measure out the red lentils, slice a bit of fresh ginger. And then she waited. None of her meals were rushed. She would simmer that porridge for 3 full hours over the soft crackle of firewood, with a kind of patience that Henry only now understands, the kind that doesn't speak but loves unconditionally. She wasn't one for words, Henry would later say, but every time she placed that bowl in front of me, I knew I was going to be okay. He remembered that old ceramic bowl chipped at the rim, the wooden spoon she had carved by hand from a backyard branch, and the smell of rice swollen soft in ginger-scented steam, the rich saltiness of hand-brewed soy sauce, a hint of pepper that warmed the back of his throat as he swallowed. Back then, he didn't know about enzymes or minerals or antioxidants. All he knew was after that bowl, his body felt warm again. Sleep came faster, and by morning he could run like nothing had ever gone wrong. Years passed. He grew up, got married, moved to the city. He got sick again from time to time, but instead of calling his mom, he called the doctor. Instead of simmering porridge, he microwaved frozen dinners. Instead of waiting for his body to speak, he pushed it to keep going. I forgot, he would say. Sometimes, all you need is a bowl of porridge. That night, Henry turned to his wife and said, "Mary, I want to eat the porridge my mother used to make." She didn't ask why. She just nodded and began searching online. But Henry remembered it all. No Google needed. He recited every step, every ingredient. And as Mary stirred the pot that night, Henry sat there, eyes closed, as if the scent of simmering brown rice was playing back his whole life. When he finally took that first spoonful, he cried. Not because it tasted good, but because he had just found a piece of himself. A piece he thought had been lost forever. What we call health, what it really means. The next morning, Henry woke up early. Not because of pain, not because of insomnia, but because, for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had a reason to keep living. He stepped into the backyard. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting warm light onto a face weathered by time but at peace. And when he looked down at his legs, he realized something. I'm not weak. I've just been starving my body for years. Not starving from lack of calories, but starving from food that never really nourished. That day, Henry began searching for answers. He dove into studies, pored over his old medical records, spoke with a nutritionist, and the truth hit him like a slap across the face after age 60. If you don't move and fuel your body properly, you can lose 3% to 8% of your muscle mass every single year. No one had told him that. No doctor warned him that muscles, when deprived of the right care, don't scream, they simply retreat. Losing muscle isn't like breaking a bone. There's no sharp pain, no bruises, just one day you try to stand up, and you can't. Henry wrote in his journal, "We don't grow weaker because we age, we grow weaker because we forget how to nourish ourselves with care." He started asking questions. Why would someone who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and eats 3 meals a day still end up nearly paralyzed? Why do modern meals leave us more tired than healed? And how could something as humble as a bowl of brown rice and lentil porridge make him feel so alive? As it turned out, the poor man's meal his mother once cooked was, by today's science, a nutritional powerhouse. Brown rice rich in B vitamins, magnesium, manganese, essential for nerves and muscle function. Red lentils packed with plant protein, soluble fiber, and iron, crucial for blood production and muscle repair. Fresh ginger supports circulation and reduces inflammation. Sea salt provides trace minerals lost in industrial diets. Parsley and sesame oil aid in detoxification and supply healthy fats to keep the nervous system running. And yet for years, Henry had believed meals were just about being full. He had eaten his way through burgers, fries, and microwave pizzas without once stopping to ask, "Is this feeding me or just filling me?" One question echoed in his head and refused to leave. If a single bowl of porridge could make me feel warm again. Just how cold had I let my body become over the years? That day, Henry made a quiet promise to himself. He would no longer eat to survive. He would eat to live well. And the place to begin wasn't the gym, wasn't supplements, wasn't some new gadget or prescription. It was simpler than that. It was the kitchen, the 21-day journey, powered by brown rice and quiet love day one. Henry ate slowly, not like his usual rushed breakfasts, those quick cups of instant coffee, that cold store-white bread. No, that morning's porridge was warm, fragrant, and somehow, it made him want to be grateful for every spoonful. He didn't turn on the TV, didn't scroll the news, didn't listen to the radio. He just sat in silence and ate. Mary watched him like she was seeing her husband truly present for the first time. After more than 40 years of marriage, she would say, "This was the first time I saw him eat and actually be there. Day 2, day 3, day 4. Henry kept eating porridge every morning, and by day 5, his body started to react. He felt tired, a light headache, frequent trips to the bathroom. Mary grew concerned. "Are you okay?" "I think so," he said. Maybe my body's just cleaning house." Henry hadn't realized how much had built up in him over the years: preservatives, trans fats, artificial sugars, excess salt. And now this humble porridge was like a whisper from within. "Let me breathe again." By day 7, he started sleeping through the night. No more tossing, no more waking in the dark. By day 10, he rose from bed without bracing the wall, stood up on his own. By day 14, he walked around the yard for 20 full minutes, no fatigue, no tightness. By day 17, he cooked with Mary for the first time in years. And on day 21, he smiled and said, "I feel 20 years younger. Not because I'm cured, but because I'm living without the weight of my body holding me down. No medication, no rehab, just brown rice porridge, a quiet wife, and a quiet decision to live right." Henry began documenting the journey in a simple notebook, handwritten, with quiet, grateful hands. He titled it 21 Days Back Home, not back to youth, but back to himself. Why do we wait until collapse to come back to ourselves? Henry used to be a strong man, not in the gym body kind of way, but in that old school American sense of strength. Work through anything, eat whatever's quick, tough it out alone because getting sick somehow felt like failing. He used to say, "If I can still stand still drive, then I'm fine." But during those long days, flat on his back, unable to rise, a bigger question surfaced. What does fine even mean? Is it dragging yourself through work only to come home too exhausted to hug your wife? Is it eating 3 square meals but not remembering what you actually ate? Is it laughing in public while your body silently screams in private? Henry began to see the quiet tragedy that so many older adults carry. We only go to the doctor after we fall. We only eat carefully after the diagnosis. We only return to the kitchen after the pills stop working. And he asked himself, why don't we do the right thing while we still can? Why do we wait for the crash? Henry recalled a painful memory. A few years back, his close friend Robert died of a sudden stroke just 1 week before. Robert had been playing golf, eating steak, drinking beer with friends. And then one morning he collapsed in the bathroom. By the time the coroner arrived, they discovered high blood pressure, fatty liver, elevated cardiac enzymes. But none of it had ever been treated. Henry reflected. It's not that we didn't know. We just kept telling ourselves we still had time. Then he turned that gaze inward. What if Mary hadn't woken up that night? What if he'd passed out in the bathroom? What if... He couldn't finish the thought. Instead, he picked up his journal and wrote a single line: I don't want to become a cautionary tale that only gets told after the funeral. So he made a promise: from now on, every meal would be an act of gratitude. Every spoonful of porridge an apology to the body that carried him through so much. And every day he still had breath would be a chance to live right before it was too late. Henry later sat down in front of a camera and recorded his very first vlog. He looked straight into the lens and said, if you're watching this and you can still sit still, breathe, still chew, then please eat one real meal for yourself before your body has to scream for help. I had to collapse to wake up, but you don't have to wait that long. The recovery recipes. Love from the kitchen. After 21 days of brown rice porridge, Henry and Mary didn't just feel stronger. They began to fall in love with their kitchen again. Before, it had just been a place to reheat leftovers, a microwave, a few plastic containers, some frozen boxes. But now the kitchen became their sanctuary, a place of healing, a place to reconnect. Henry called it wooden spoon therapy. Each dish a gentle whisper to the body: I remember you. I want to care for you. I won't abandon you again. And from that quiet foundation, brown rice and red lentils, they began creating new meals. Simple, humble, healing. No fancy ingredients. No expensive machines, just basic staple and love in every stir. 1. Brown rice with toasted sesame salt. Eating to listen. Each morning, Henry would re-steam a bowl of brown rice cooked the night before and sprinkle it with hand-toasted sesame salt. No reading the paper while eating, no answering emails, no distractions. Just slow chewing 30 times per bite to feel each grain open in his mouth like a quiet reminder. Be here. That dish taught me silence so I could hear what my body was really saying. 2. Brown rice and pumpkin soup. Eating to let go. Soft cooked pumpkin and brown rice blended with a touch of cold pressed olive oil and a pinch of nutmeg. Each spoonful felt like wrapping himself in a warm blanket on a winter night. I used to think strength meant holding on, but real strength is knowing when to release. 3. Black sesame rice balls. Eating to remember where you came from. Mary would toast the rice, grind it with black sesame seeds, mix in just a bit of molasses, and roll it into small chewy balls like candy. With every bite, Henry thought of his mother pounding sesame with a stone mortar, toasting rice by hand. Some dishes don't need to be delicious. They just need to bring back someone you loved. 4. Chickpea, brown rice, sprout salad. Eating to feel new again. A colorful mix of soft-boiled chickpeas, tangy brown rice tossed with apple cider vinegar, fresh sprouts and sunflower seeds, drizzled with roasted sesame oil and tamari soy sauce. I used to think older people shouldn't eat salad, but freshness is what made me feel alive again. 5. Lentil, root vegetable soup. Eating to heal. Red lentils cooked gently with carrots, daikon leek, and a single slice of ginger. Seasoned only with sea salt, no MSG, no sugar, no chemicals. The broth came out clear, soft, gentle on the stomach. I used to need sleeping pills every night. Now 1 bowl of hot soup, and I sleep like a child. Henry wrote on a chalkboard in the kitchen. Every meal is a vow. I choose to live light. I choose to live real. I choose to live kindly with myself. He had gone from fearing meals to looking forward to them, from eating just to feel full to eating to come home, from avoiding the kitchen to standing in it with quiet gratitude. And strangely enough, from a single bowl of porridge, Henry had learned how to love ordinary life again. When one bowl of porridge wakes you up for life. 3 months after the fall, Henry wasn't just walking again. He was stronger, lighter, and in a way he never expected. He was free, not free to climb mountains or sprint like in his youth, but free from fear, free from that heavy, quiet dread, I'm getting weaker, and there's nothing I can do. Henry said, I used to think I needed a miracle drug or fancy machines or a world-class doctor to save me. But what saved me was just a bowl of porridge, a patient wife, and one small, honest decision to stop. Stop eating what his body didn't recognize. Stop ignoring the signals. Stop pretending everything was fine. He started writing a blog, sharing his story, posting recipes, telling the truth about the journey one post at a time. Not to get famous, but to speak to the people still confused, still scared, just like he once was, and the messages poured in. From sleepless wives, from diabetic husbands, from mothers whose hands trembled too much to cook, from 70-year-old fathers learning to make porridge for the first time. One person wrote, I cried reading your story. I thought I was the only one scared of not being able to get off the floor. Now I know I'm not alone. Henry couldn't reply to every message, but he ended each post with the same words, if a bowl of porridge could wake me up, then it can wake you too. You don't have to wait for the fall. You just have to start listening today. One quiet afternoon with a light rain tapping the tin roof, Henry and Mary sat side by side on their wooden porch bench. No words, just the sound of rain, hand in hand, in peace. Henry looked off into the distance, then turned to his wife and whispered, You know, the night I couldn't get off the floor turned out to be the night I really began to live. Final words and call to action. Dear friend, if you're still listening at this very moment, Jumsi, then I believe something inside you is waking up too. Maybe you haven't fallen. Maybe you're still walking fine. But if your body feels tired, if your mind feels scattered, if your heart feels lost, then maybe what you need isn't some magic solution. Maybe what you need is a new beginning. Something small. Maybe it's a bowl of porridge, a meal cooked with your own hands, a little brown rice and a lot of patience. Or maybe just a quiet moment of honesty with yourself. I want to change here at The Life. After 60, we're not here to tell you how to live. We're just here to share real stories to remind you you are not alone. And you deserve to live lighter at any age. Follow Senior Healthy Daily so that every day you have one more reason to come back home to yourself.